Alright, we are back for another episode of painting the Legions of the Horus Heresy without an airbrush. And today, on episode 13, we are painting the 15th Legion, the Thousand Suns. And we're going to do a technique that I stole from a friend of mine, but we're going to use a different color. So the technique that he has been using is priming his miniatures in Retributor armor, which is what I've done, and then using Blood Angel's red contrast over the top of that. I don't know if it's an original creation of his, or if he got it from somewhere else, but nonetheless, he's been doing it. I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to do it with Ball Red. So this guy is primed, Retributor armor. But then I'm going to use Ball Red, just because it's, one, it's a new paint, and two, because it's a little brighter, and I think it might look more like the Thousand Suns Legion colors. So I'm just going to make sure my brush is wet here. And I'm just going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to follow the art for this guy in the Hereticus book, because I have never painted a red Thousand Sun before. And so I'm just going to basically follow their color scheme exactly. Which means he has a gold backpack, not a red backpack. So I won't be putting any of this there. I'm going to be making sure to get it all over everywhere else. Making sure that it lays down as smooth as possible. The idea behind the red over the gold is that the red contrast allows some of the gold to shine through, and gives you the sort of metallic-y color that the Heresy era Thousand Suns are. But like I said, when he started doing it, this color was not out yet. The new contrast paints were not out, and so not Blood Red, Blood Angel's Red seems like the logical choice. But now that we have this, I figured I'd give it a whirl. So I got a little bit on the backpack there, but that's okay. I can always touch it up with some from the pot Retributor armor. So I'm just going to finish applying this to the whole marine here. I'll let it dry. I'm going to do this shoulder pad also. But yeah, I'll finish applying it to the whole miniature, let it dry, and then we will come back and do the next step. Alrighty, we are back, and our red is nice and dry. Now, I'm actually going to do some white, because I noticed that in the art here, the bolter is white and the backpack is white. So, I'm going to take some matte white here, from Army Painter, and just cover the bolter and the backpack. We're then going to use probably... wow, I'm blanking on the name. Soul Blight Gray, the new shade. At least, again, new at the time of recording. And just cover over it to give it a little bit of definition. I'm not worried too much about complete coverage, because a lot of the parts of the bolter are silver. So I'm not going to worry about getting all like up here in white and all that. And the same with the magazine. It's going to be silver, or maybe black. I am going to get down here, though. Just being careful to avoid the red armor. I could use a better brush for this also. That's okay. Alright, there we go. And the same with the backpack here. The exhaust ports here are gold in the art. And the same with these things. So I'm going to do my best to avoid them, but if I don't, then I can just come back with some Retributor armor after the fact and touch them up. I can't see these in the art, but I am going to leave them gold as well on this guy. Painting so many Space Marines, I really should learn the anatomy of a Space Marines equipment. I call these things all sorts of different things that are probably all wrong, but maybe one day. Like maybe for all I know, these could be the intakes and these are the exhausts. I have no idea. So there we go. Just get this little bit here. Alright, so we'll let that white dry. Then we'll come back and add some wash to it. Alrighty, our white is nice and dry now. Now we're just going to add some Soulblight Gray, a shade color, very similar to Apothecary White, but a little bit thinner and lays down a little bit smoother, in my opinion. We're just going to apply this directly on top of all of the white here. So we'll get the bolter first. As you can see, it just gives it a little bit of definition, but still maintains the overall color of white. There we go, and the other side, and then the backpack. This is probably one of my favorites of the newer contrast paints. I haven't used it a whole bunch, but so far what I've used it on has come out pretty well. So now I'm just going to go straight into the black here. I'm going to use Black Legion for this. Again, just because it's the new one. And this is going to be for the armor joints. And I'll have to check the art and look at the leather color on these guys. And I'll do that after this step here. They may be black though, and if the leather is black, the only thing I have on him is his belt, so I'll just paint that while the rest of it is drying off camera. Oh, I'm also going to paint the conduits on the side of his backpack in black. Being careful to avoid the red armor. Although, in this case, one of the few cases, if we did get some on the red armor, and we couldn't just wipe it off immediately, we could actually repaint the area with Retributor armor, and then cover it back over with ball red. It might not match exactly, but it would be close. Alrighty. Just get these conduits here. The Soulblight Gray is still a little wet on these, but that's okay. We'll get the idea. I'm also actually going to paint this little circle right here in black. Perfect. Alrighty, so I will now let everything else dry, check the leather color, and then come back and we'll do the silver. Alright, we're back, and we're not quite ready to do the silver yet, but I am going to touch up the gold, and then by the time I do the gold, the silver should be ready to go. I'm just using Retributor armor, the classic, even more so because that's what we primed this guy with. So I'm just going to touch up the backpack bits here. We got a little bit of white on them. No big deal. Then I'm just going to make sure these are nice and crisp. They look like they're fine. Got a stray bristle in my brush. Get out of there. Those look fine. Then down here. Good. And then I'm going to paint these. Oh, and I'm going to paint his face mask, actually. So I'm going to paint these in gold first. There we go. And then I'm going to paint just the beak of his face mask in gold. Being careful to avoid the, well, was going to say being careful to avoid the eye lenses, but they don't actually matter because we're going to paint them in white first. Should have painted them when I had the white out. That's okay though. Alright, so now our white and our gray should be dry enough that we can add the silver. So for that, I'm going to use Iron Hand Steel. My go-to silver on these guys. Technically, I probably should be like differentiating the silvers between all the different legions, but... or at least making some legions different, but for just this project of just painting one of each guy, I don't think it really matters. I think this Iron Hand Steel looks good on all of them, to be honest. Alright, now I'm going to get the magazine here. Oh, I meant to paint this thing in gold. I'll do that in just a second. Alright, and then I'm just going to pick out some details on the bolter here. And silver. There we go. The rear sight here, at least I think that's what it is. And then some details on the helmet. These little side things. And the camera up here. And then the last thing are these rivets. I'm just going to do the big 6 rivets up here. I'm not going to bother with all these. There we go. And then I'm going to paint in these little details here. And then the chevrons on his chest straps. Kind of an annoying angle with the bolter, but that's okay. We've got a little bit of silver on his face mask. I'll just wipe that off real quick. There you go. Alright. So that will almost do it. I'm going to paint this thing gold and let everything else dry. And then we'll come back, do the eyes, add some washes, and call him done. Alrighty, everything is starting to be nice and dry. I just, in the break, I painted some more matte white in his eyes so we can do the eyes more effectively. But now, I'm going to take some more Retributor armor and just do a couple little edge highlights on this guy. Not a ton, because I don't want to overcomplicate this. But I just want to really sell the metallic on the armor. So I'm just going to do some of the biggest edges. So I'll start here with the knee pads there. Then I'll do the shoulder pads right on the edge here. Let's go down like that. And this one. There we go. And then just a couple right here on the arm that's facing front. There we go. That'll do. Alright, so then I'm going to get some Frost Heart, which is one of the newer contrast paints. It's a nice medium to light blue. And I'm just going to use this for the eyes. So straight over the matte white that I put in there earlier. Like that. And like that. There we go. Got some nice eyes. Now I'm going to take my Null Oil. And this is going to go on the silver, the white, and the gold. If it's too heavy on the white, I'm going to come back and wipe it off a little bit. So I'm going to start on just the silvers and the gold. And then we might come back to the white and see how it does. I'll lay this in here, get the side of the helmet there. Oh, I have to do the blue on the camera, so I'll do that in just a second. this down in there. Just gonna put it in here also, just to help darken those a little bit. And then I'm gonna put it on this as well. Alright, so then I'm just gonna dip my paint in the, or dip my brush rather, in the null oil, then dip it in the paint water. So it'll be thinned down on the brush, and then I'm just gonna put it on here. And I think that works out well. So it's just slightly thinned null oil, nothing too precise, just dip the brush in the null oil, dip the brush in the paint water, and come across. There we go. I think that works out. Null oil, paint water, come across. Cool. So that works. I'm just going to dry my brush off and get straight null oil again and apply it to the gold here. Sorry about that, got a little cut off there. My camera decided it was done for the day. But the only other thing I did is added a little bit of null oil onto this shoulder pad, and then I decided to just put a very light coat of it all over the rest of the red just to tie it all together. But yeah, that'll do it. So right about now, you should be seeing him on a base, the same simple base scheme I've done for all of these Painting the Legions videos. I'm pretty happy with him. I think he came out pretty well, considering I had to paint metallic red and white. I think it worked out pretty great. If you like this sort of video, please feel free to like this one and subscribe to the channel. If you want to support the channel more than just watching, which is absolutely fine, there is a Patreon down in the description. Otherwise, thank you again for watching, and I will see you next time.